The morning rush at the Daily Bean Cafe had its own rhythm, a kind of chaos that only those who lived it every day could understand. The hiss of the espresso machine, the clatter of cups, the soft murmur of early risers scrolling through their phones. For Emily Hart, this symphony of sounds was both exhausting and comforting. It was her world. At 26, Emily was the kind of woman who blended into crowds, quiet, observant, her brown hair always tied neatly under a black cap, her smile polite but distant. She had been working at the Daily Bean for nearly 2 years, saving up money to go back to school. Her dream was simple yet distant, a degree in business, maybe even opening her own coffee shop one day. But for now, she served other people's dreams in ceramic cups. That day had begun like any other Tuesday, too early, too cold, and too busy. The morning sunlight filtered through the cafe's large glass windows, throwing golden patches across the wooden floor. Emily moved with practiced grace, dodging coworkers, balancing trays, and scribbling names on paper cups. 2 cappuccinos for Sarah. 1 iced latte, no sugar, for Tony, she called out, her voice rising above the hum of chatter. Then the door opened, and everything stilled for a fraction of a second. He walked in like someone from another world. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that looked like it belonged in a magazine ad. His hair was dark, perfectly styled, and his wristwatch flashed the kind of quiet luxury that said old money. People didn't just look at him, they felt his presence. Even the manager, who usually barked orders from behind the counter, straightened up instinctively. Emily caught herself staring. The man's eyes, cold steel blue, swept the cafe as if assessing it. Then he approached the counter, his steps firm but unhurried. Black coffee. No sugar, no cream, he said, his voice low and confident. Coming right up, Emily replied, forcing her professional smile. As she handed him his cup, their fingers brushed for the briefest second. A chill shot up her arm, not unpleasant, just surprising. He gave her a polite nod and walked toward the window seat, pulling out a sleek black smartphone from his coat pocket. Emily tried to ignore him, but he was hard to miss. Every few seconds, his phone vibrated, and he answered in that same calm, commanding tone. Yes, send the draft to legal. No, not the old version, the new contract. Another call followed almost instantly. Make sure Avalon Holdings signs by noon. I don't want any delays. Even from a distance, Emily could tell he was used to giving orders, used to being obeyed. But behind the authority in his voice, she noticed something else, a tightness in his jaw, a heaviness in his gaze. It was the look of someone carrying a burden too big to show. Who's that? Whispered Jenny, another waitress, nudging Emily with her elbow. Emily shrugged. No idea. Probably some executive. Look at that suit. Jenny smirked. Rich, good-looking, and serious? Yeah, that's trouble wrapped in a bank account. Emily laughed softly, brushing it off, but she couldn't shake the curiosity gnawing at her. Something about him didn't fit the picture. For all his composure, there was tension in his shoulders, like he was preparing for a storm. After about 20 minutes, the man stood abruptly, glanced at his watch, and muttered something under his breath. He pulled a few bills from his wallet, too many for the simple coffee he'd ordered, and dropped them on the counter without waiting for change. Keep it, he said, and walked out. It wasn't until 10 minutes later, while Emily was wiping down his table, that she noticed it, the phone. Sleek, expensive, and sitting face down beside the empty cup. Oh no, she whispered, picking it up. The device was heavier than it looked, its black screen gleaming under the light. She rushed to the door, but the man was long gone. Outside, traffic roared, cars honking, people rushing across crosswalks. She stood on the curb, scanning the street, hoping to spot that perfectly tailored suit again. Nothing. She sighed and went back inside. Everything okay? Her manager asked, half distracted. Someone forgot their phone, Emily said. Put it behind the counter. If they call or come back, we'll give it to them. She nodded, about to do just that, until the phone lit up in her hand. The screen flashed with an incoming call. CFO, Grant Industries. Her eyes widened. Grant Industries? Everyone in the city knew that name. One of the biggest tech and investment companies in the country. And the man she'd just served. Could he be that Grant? Before she could think, the call stopped, and then another message appeared on the screen. Urgent. Deal confirmation needed in 10 minutes. Emily froze. The message came from someone named Evelyn, Legal Department. It read, Mr. Grant, we need your authorization for the Avalon merger. The board is waiting. Something about it didn't feel right. She didn't know why, but her instincts, the same ones that told her when customers were lying about missing change, screamed danger. Then the phone buzzed again. This time, an incoming call from Boardroom, HQ. Emily hesitated. Should she answer? She wasn't supposed to touch customer property. But what if it was important? What if it was something that couldn't wait? Her curiosity, and a strange sense of responsibility, won. She swiped the screen. Mr. Grant. A man's voice barked on the other end. We are waiting for your final confirmation on the Avalon transfer. Are we going through? Emily's pulse quickened. Mr. Grant just stepped out, she said cautiously. Maybe he wanted to review the contract first. There was silence for a moment, then the man's voice turned sharp. Who is this? I work at a cafe. He left his phone here. Listen to me carefully, the voice snapped. If we don't get approval in 5 minutes, we lose the deal. Just open the app labeled Secure Transfer and click Confirm. Got it? Emily froze. I can't do that. I'm not. Just do it, the man shouted, his tone suddenly aggressive. It's critical. Her stomach twisted. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Her mind replayed the words she'd overheard earlier. Make sure Avalon Holdings signs by noon. Why would his own CFO be pressuring a waitress to confirm a transfer? Then, just as she was about to hang up, the man hissed, If you ruin this, you'll regret it, and disconnected. Emily stared at the phone, her hand trembling. Her reflection stared back at her in the black glass, scared, confused, but alert. A new notification popped up almost immediately. Click here to authorize payment. $120 million. Her heart nearly stopped. One click, and $120 million would be gone. She whispered to herself, This isn't real. This can't be real. But deep down, she knew it was. Someone was trying to steal from him. Someone had been waiting for the perfect moment, pretending to be part of his company, hoping he'd be too busy to notice. Her mind raced. If she did nothing, he'd lose everything. If she tried to help, she could get in serious trouble. She wasn't a hacker, she wasn't an investigator. She was just a waitress who poured coffee and smiled for tips. But that voice, the threat, it felt real. And the idea of letting some criminal win made her blood boil. She took a deep breath, looked at the phone again, and whispered, Guess I'm not just a waitress today. Without another thought, she grabbed her jacket, stuffed the phone in her pocket, and bolted out of the cafe. The rain had started to fall, thin and cold, soaking her apron as she ran toward the nearest taxi stand. Grant Industries, she gasped as she climbed into a cab. Please, it's urgent. The driver looked at her in the rearview mirror, hesitated at her frantic tone, then nodded. Hold tight. As the city blurred past the window, Emily's thoughts raced faster than the cab. What am I even doing? She wondered. This isn't my problem. But deep down, she knew it was. Maybe she couldn't stop the storms in her own life. Missed rent, broken dreams, endless shifts. But this? This was something she could fix. By the time the cab screeched to a stop outside the gleaming skyscraper of Grant Industries, Emily's heart felt like it might burst. She looked up at the towering glass building, its logo shining high above the clouds, and whispered, All right, Mr. Billionaire, let's save your empire. She pushed the door open and stepped into a world that was nothing like hers. Marble floors, security gates, and people in tailored suits rushing about with tablets and earpieces. She clutched the billionaire's phone tightly, the screen still glowing with that single, ominous message. Click to confirm transaction, $120 million. And right then, Emily knew, this was only the beginning. The cab screeched to a halt in front of the towering glass headquarters of Grant Industries, a monument of steel and ambition that seemed to scrape the rain-soaked clouds. Emily stepped out, clutching the billionaire's phone tightly in her trembling hands. Her shoes splashed into puddles, her uniform was drenched, and the icy wind cut through her jacket. But none of it mattered. She had one mission, to find Alexander Grant before someone stole his company out from under him. As she looked up, the skyscraper loomed over her like a giant, a symbol of everything she wasn't. She was a cafe waitress, with a worn-out notebook full of unpaid bills and dreams half-written. People like her didn't walk into places like this. But she'd come this far. Taking a shaky breath, she whispered to herself, Come on, Emily. Be brave. Inside, the lobby was a different world, bright, polished, intimidating. People in tailored suits rushed past her, talking into earpieces, carrying tablets, and never looking twice. The marble floors gleamed like mirrors. At the reception desk, 2 security guards stood near metal detectors, their sharp eyes scanning every face. Emily approached the front desk, dripping rainwater onto the pristine floor. "Excuse me," she began, voice wavering. "I need to see Mr. Grant. It's an emergency." The receptionist blinked, taken aback. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but," Emily fumbled with the phone, holding it up. "He left this at my cafe, and someone's trying to scam him. Please, you have to let me see him. He's about to lose millions, maybe everything." The woman's polite smile faltered into suspicion. You can't just." But Emily cut her off, desperate. "Look, I know how it sounds, but I'm telling the truth. He's in danger. There's a fake merger, a fraudulent transfer for $120 million. Someone called pretending to be his CFO, but it wasn't real. I swear." Her voice rose, attracting glances from employees walking by. The guards exchanged uneasy looks. One of them stepped closer, speaking calmly. "Miss, please lower your voice. Mr. Grant is a very busy man. If you could—" And then, a woman's voice interrupted sharply from behind them. "What's going on here?" Emily turned. A young woman in a navy blue suit approached, her ID badge reading Charlotte Davis, executive assistant to the CEO. Her sharp eyes took in Emily's soaked uniform, the phone in her hand, and the desperation written across her face. "She says she needs to see Mr. Grant," the guard explained, "but she doesn't have an appointment." Charlotte frowned. "What's your name?" "Emily. Emily Hart," she said quickly. "I work at the Daily Bean Café. Mr. Grant came in this morning, had a coffee, and left his phone. I tried to return it, but someone called, pretending to be his CFO. They wanted me to confirm a massive money transfer. It didn't sound right, so I came here." Charlotte's gaze flickered to the phone. "Let me see that." She typed in a security code, and the phone unlocked. Charlotte's eyes widened. "It is his," she muttered. Then she looked at Emily again, something sharp and calculating in her expression. "Follow me." Emily barely had time to process it before Charlotte was striding toward the elevators, heels clicking against marble. They rode up in silence to the 42nd floor, the nerve center of Grant Industries. Emily tried to steady her breathing, her reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls pale and anxious. When the doors opened, the atmosphere changed. It was quieter here, heavier. The hallway led to a large boardroom where a dozen executives sat around a sleek table. Screens displayed financial charts and documents labeled Avalon Merger, Final Stage. At the head of the table stood Alexander Grant himself, every bit as composed and commanding as he had been at the cafe, only now surrounded by power. His crisp white shirt, tailored suit, and calm authority radiated control. He was in the middle of speaking when Charlotte entered. "Sir," she said softly, "there's someone you need to see." Grant looked up, irritation flashing briefly before his eyes fell on Emily. "You." His voice was cool, controlled, but there was curiosity beneath it. "The waitress." Emily swallowed. "You left your phone. And someone tried to use it. They said they were your CFO and wanted me to confirm a transfer for the Avalon deal. I think it's a scam. I came here to warn you." The room went utterly silent. Grant's sharp blue eyes locked on her face. Then, wordlessly, he took the phone. His fingers moved swiftly over the screen, scrolling through messages, checking call logs. After a moment, his jaw clenched. "Get IT in here," he said to Charlotte. His tone dropped an octave, cold, deadly. "Now." The executives exchanged alarmed glances. One of them whispered into his earpiece. Within minutes, 2 cybersecurity specialists rushed in, laptops in hand. The tension was so thick it felt like the air itself had frozen. Emily stood awkwardly near the door, shivering, water dripping from her hair onto the pristine floor. She felt wildly out of place, like a child who had wandered into a boardroom full of wolves. Grant handed the phone to one of the IT men. "Trace every call and message from the last 2 hours." The man typed rapidly. His eyes widened after a few seconds. "Sir, this wasn't sent from our internal system. It's an external spoof of your CFO's number. The link for the transfer authorization is fake. If anyone had clicked it, the money would have gone straight to an offshore account." Grant's expression darkened. "Who's behind it?" "Still tracking," the IT man replied grimly. "But this was sophisticated. They cloned your CFO's email domain and used encrypted routing. It's likely an organized cybercrime group." A ripple of murmurs went through the executives. "My God," one of them muttered. "If she hadn't come." Grant turned to Emily, his gaze steady but soft now. "And you realize this?" She hesitated. I just had a feeling." The man on the phone sounded wrong. Desperate. People in power don't sound desperate. And he said to just confirm it. That's something scammers say, not executives. For a long moment, he simply studied her. The tension in his jaw eased slightly, replaced by something almost like admiration. "You trusted your instincts," he said finally. "Most people wouldn't have." Emily shrugged, still nervous. "Honestly, I thought I was overreacting. But then he threatened me. That's when I knew it was serious." That drew a low chuckle from Grant, quick and dry. "You've got more sense than half the people in this room." Laughter broke the tension, and even the executives relaxed slightly. Grant turned to his team. "Suspend all outgoing transfers. Lock down the financial servers and alert the board. I want the FBI looped in within the hour." "Yes, sir," said one of the executives, rushing out with a phone pressed to his ear. As the flurry of activity resumed, Grant looked back at Emily. "Miss Hart, right?" She nodded. "You've done more for this company in one morning than some people manage in a year," he said. "You might have just saved us $120 million. Emily's cheeks flushed. "I just answered a phone." Grant's lips curved into a faint smile. "Sometimes that's all it takes." He extended a hand. "Thank you." She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm, confident, but not intimidating this time. There was warmth there, gratitude. "Can I go now?" she asked, half laughing, half embarrassed. Grant chuckled. "Not before I get you something warm to drink. You're freezing." He nodded to Charlotte. "Take Miss Hart to the lounge. Get her a towel, some coffee." As Charlotte led her out, Emily caught one last glimpse of the boardroom, executives in motion, Grant standing tall at the head of the table, commanding his empire back from the brink. 2 weeks later, Emily found herself standing in front of a large mirror in a brand new office. The reflection staring back at her hardly looked like the same woman. Her hair was neatly styled, her clothes professional, her posture confident. The badge hanging around her neck read, "Emily Hart, Executive Assistant to the CEO." She could hardly believe it. Alexander Grant had called her 2 days after the incident, inviting her to lunch to thank her properly. What started as a simple thank you turned into a conversation about her goals, her dreams, and the way she noticed things others didn't. He'd offered her a position on the spot, not as a charity gesture, but because he believed she had potential. Now, she worked in the same skyscraper she had once run into, terrified and drenched, trying to warn a stranger. Her job wasn't glamorous, scheduling meetings, reviewing reports, organizing Grant's Day, but she loved it. Every time she walked through the glass halls, she felt like she belonged to something bigger. One afternoon, Grant stopped by her desk, holding 2 coffees. "You still drink caramel lattes, right?" She blinked, surprised. "You remembered." He smiled faintly. "I remember a lot of things. Like the day a brave waitress saved me from losing my company." Emily laughed. "You make it sound dramatic." "It was dramatic," he replied. "If that money had gone through, we'd be bankrupt within a week. And all because I was careless with a phone." She looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, I almost didn't answer it that day." "Then we'd both be in very different places," he said softly. For a moment, their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. Gratitude. Respect.